Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of Tech, live on Twitch via StarLink. So the connection seems okay right now, but I'm just trying to warn all of you. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm too loud. I think I was peaking the microphone a tad there. I'm messing around with audio settings later. Sorry about that. But I want to preface this stream by saying I've actually been testing Starlink speed tests, not publicly, and it is a little spotty. Okay, so the speeds itself are not the problem. I'm able to upload videos and do my live streaming with the speeds that are available in the beta today. The only limiting factor I'm experiencing so far are the occasional dropouts. So the good news is they don't take very long. So I'm trying to warn you guys with this stream in saying that there very much likely will be some dropped frames. There will be times where it buffers a little bit. The good news is they shouldn't last long. I've been experimenting with it yesterday and today, and when they do drop frames, it typically only lasts around 5 seconds, maybe 10 if it gets really, really bad. But yeah, I've done some extensive stream testing with it, and for the most part, I would say it appears to be like 7% streaming for an hour. Around 7% of the frames are dropped. But the good news is, for the most part, my audio should come through. For the most part, even if I freeze and get a little choppy, the audio should come through. And this is all from those very brief but very noticeable signal cutouts when it's switching between satellites, which happens every 5 minutes or so. But I must say, 0 frames dropped in the first 5 minutes, which is pretty cool. And the good news is this is the worst Starlink will ever be. It's only going to get better from here. Even tomorrow, they're supposed to send up 60 more satellites, and it's supposed to be double the speed it is today by the end of this year. So I'm very excited about the tech. I love messing around with it. It's just the little the little slight cutoffs that throw off a lot. But I actually talked to my friend in the Air Force this morning with it over FaceTime. We talked for about an hour and a half, around 90 minutes. And I do notice when it drops, it cuts out. But again, it's really usually only around 5 to 10 seconds, and then it comes right back. So when the connection is there, it's great. It's just when it briefly runs out. Oh, I think this is the first one. All right, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back. Hopefully it should be back now. I see it in the green. So now you know what I'm talking about. Those are the frame drops I'm referring to, which do happen on occasion. But let me make sure it's green. Yeah, it's very much like a Tesla. It only gets better with features and software with time. So yeah, exactly. It's still part of the as they call it, better than nothing beta. So a lot of people who are in sucky internet locations and stuff are dealing with really, really crappy internet, and this is absolutely better than nothing for them, even with intermittent cutouts and stuff. So to those demographics, it's very, very helpful. In my demographic, it's more of a challenge because, of course, I already have Comcast, but I want to cancel Comcast so much. I want to get off them. For one, because they are very much more expensive and they have no plans at making their internet speeds better. Starlink has projections and roadmaps for making their internet much better. I have not canceled Xfinity. No, don't worry. I haven't made that call yet. Xfinity, though, has no incentive, has no plan to make speeds better over time. I've talked with them about getting faster upload speeds or what we would have to pay or what would have to happen, and they're just like, nope, we offer what we offer, take it or leave it. That's it. There's no plans on improving the connection over time, whereas SpaceX is like actively and consistently trying to improve their connection and make it more reliable, which is why I'm more inclined to put up with crappier speeds or more inconsistent internet, because I know over time it could be better for upload at least. Download, maybe it could match it someday. Elon says they eventually want to get it to gigabit speeds, which is cool. But yeah, there will be lag. I know. We've got that one at the beginning so far. Now you know what it's like. Avnub asks, is Starlink only available in North America for now? Can't wait for it to come to the Philippines so my family can have a decent internet connection. So yeah, 2 things have to happen. One thing's pretty certain. Basically, they haven't covered all of the planet when it comes to Starlink coverage. But with how many satellites they're sending up right now, they expect to have global coverage by the end of this year. Um, and given that they've been pretty consistent with the timelines, I know not everything Elon says ends up being super accurate, but when it comes to the Starlink rollout, he said, I remember it very specifically. I was outside sitting in my hammock and I read a tweet that said, uh, Elon expects there to be a limited beta for Starlink by the end of 2020. And there was a limited beta by the end of 2020. And when they came forward with the speeds, they said you should expect between 100 and 150 megabits per second down. That's what I've experienced as well. So I know that the timelines may be way off with Tesla and full self-driving and that kind of thing, or the Cybertruck or Tesla Semi and the Roadster. Those types of things, yeah, I agree. Their timelines are off. But when it comes to Starlink's rollout, I must say it's been pretty reliable for me, at least. Um, Also, I got some people to thank. DJ, I don't know if you're still here, but DJ, thank you for tuning in. 31 months. Holy crap. This streak is getting ridiculous. A tier 2 sub. You got to quit that, man. That's too much money. But thank you, DJ. Appreciate that greatly. Krith said, did you cancel your Xfinity plan or are you running both simultaneously? I'm running both simultaneously to answer Chris's question. The reason we didn't cancel Xfinity yet is because we're not entirely sure if we're ready to cut it off and rely completely on Starlink. We have a few options we're debating. We have a few weeks. There is a 30-day return policy with Starlink, so if it just simply can't work for us, sorry, here comes another lag. See, it's very consistent with the 5 minutes thing. I see it. Slowly coming back. There it goes. It definitely has a ton of potential. Use the low latency toggle under the advanced to disable the low latency mode. What is that? That's interesting. Huh. Twitch gave me a pop-up. It says use the low latency toggle under the advanced menu and settings. Huh. No, I don't have any games, to be honest with you. I know people want me to test gaming. I know that there are hundreds, probably close to thousands of people testing Starlink right now and making videos on Starlink. And there are plenty of them that will give you feedback on gaming, but I do not play video games. So for that reason, I don't have many to test for you in the first place, just because every last bit of hard drive space on my computer is designated for videos and editing and files that I'm interacting with. So that's why I can't test games for it, but other people have done that. Trust me, there's plenty of videos you can look up and see how it's doing. What's the ping on the speed test? It varies a lot. It goes back and forth. I thought I've seen it hit around 20 milliseconds a few times, but on average, probably closer to 25, 30, or 40 occasionally. But yeah, it's a work in progress, and I think the roadmap of eventually getting better is what has me more excited for it than anything. But I got a few other people to thank. So DJ, first of all, 31 months, thank you. Yav Raz 3, thank you for the Twitch Prime for 8 months. He said, I want Starlink, but it's not in my country yet, but hopefully soon. So yeah, that was the other thing. To answer Avnub's question, by the end of this year, they hope to have Starlink coverage everywhere, but then on top of that, it has to get approved for your country. So not every country, I think, is instantly going to legalize it for everybody. I don't see why the Philippines would be against allowing Starlink in the country. That I feel like would be great for business and allow more people to work there. So I imagine majority of countries will probably be fine with it. There might be a few dictatorships or a few countries that are worried about not being able to control the internet, and they might decide to ban Starlink. So it could end up being banned in a few countries where they're just like, no, we don't want SpaceX being able to sell things to our citizens. But I would say for the most part, most countries I think should be fine with it. There's not really a reasonable argument to ban it from your country, as long as you want your citizens to have access to the internet. If you have an issue with your citizens having access to the internet, I mean, there's probably even bigger problems in your country than slow speeds. But yeah. Okay, let's see. Cosminator, thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. You just sent the tongue emoji. All right. 28 months. That's a long time. Thank you. So yeah, I can see the lag myself on my end. So you don't. I mean, I appreciate the feedback, but you don't have to remind me when it lags. I can tell. I've been experimenting with unlisted, private live streams for the past 2 days, and I know how long the cutout periods last. I know that they're not too permanent. So basically, when I'm streaming via StarLink, which I will try to disclose as much as possible, you basically just have to remember, okay, it might buffer from time to time, but it's not going to last forever. It's just going to be a few seconds, then it'll come right back. Um, how many boxes do you have hanging on the wall? That's a great question. I do not know. They fall off sometimes, to be honest with you. Let's see. Starlink is the future, waiting for it to come to Israel, so I'll be able to get more than 20 megabits per second down and 10 megabits. Yeah, I think download for sure. Yeah, but upload will be faster. Download would be faster. I think for a lot of people in Israel, this would be a huge deal. There's a lot of the world that has zero access to internet. Believe it or not, it's easy to forget that when we think about how long the internet has been around. But it's true. There's still billions of people on Earth that don't have any access, whether it be because they're in a location where they can't really run coax cable or fiber optics out there, or the satellite internet is so unreliable that they can't really do much off of it anyway, which is why I think Starlink is going to bring humanity together in a huge way. The download's been wonderful, by the way. The download has exceeded expectations. I was Me and my wife were basically putting forward the ground rules of like, here's what we want Starlink to be for us to cancel Xfinity, and our download requirement was about 100. I had gigabit before, but I didn't use it. I mean, genuinely, I'm not saying that just as a fanboy. I'm saying that as literally like, download for us is streaming YouTube videos and streaming content on, Peacock or that kind of thing. Like the occasional movie or TV show being watched. We do not like, because I don't play very many video games. I don't have a console. I'm not downloading huge files often ever. Very, very few times am I downloading files that are over a gig, which is really the only time that you would notice like 1,000 down versus 100 down. If you're just watching YouTube videos and watching Netflix and that kind of thing, 100 down is still fine. You can still watch 4K content with 100 down. So that was my baseline. That's what I was requiring. And in our speed tests, we're seeing 120, 150. My wife briefly got over 200, which was cool. And Elon is saying they expect the speeds to be twice as fast by the end of this year, which is really exciting. So most people don't upload. It's basic economics. Yeah, I know. Most people don't. There's very little of the time emphasis done on upload with any ISP. And it's kind of the same thing with Starlink. But honestly, after uploading some videos and doing some light live streaming with Starlink, I can confidently say it's not the speed that's the bottleneck. Like, if the speed's never improved, I could live with this. What I can't live with, that's going to be difficult for me to justify switching to Starlink and canceling Comcast, which the decision is yet to be made. I'm still just like barely 24 hours in with this, is the intermittent cutouts. That's the big problem. That interferes with, of course, live streaming. I would like to be able to live stream without dropping any frames. That's what I'm used to. And I don't need necessarily 40 up on Comcast. So that, to answer my question, not my question, someone's point earlier, we got 1,000 down with Comcast because that was the only way to get 40 megabits per second up. And I just want to have the best upload possible with any provider I'm using. I don't care about download very much. In fact, I would take a hit in download if it let me have better upload. In other words, I would rather have 50 down, 50 up over 1,000 down, 40 up. Okay, just to give you a perspective on how little download makes a difference to me, because I just do everything streaming videos. I'm not downloading huge files. Upload is everything. That allows me to upload videos in a timely manner or live stream. So right now it's just the consistency. The reliability of the signal is the one thing that's preventing me from being like, I don't know yet. But of course that's going to get better and that's going to improve over time. So yeah, Super Jack is in the same boat as me. He says, my Comcast is 800 down, but only 20 up. Yeah, that's that's what most of the there are a few ISPs that provide parallel. I've seen it before. It exists. I know that most people don't upload as much, but my point is, I have been at people's houses where their download and upload were equal. It's a real thing. And I wish that was just more common. I wish that was a tier on StarLink. I'll be like, hey, you can slow down my download if I can get more upload, please. That would be great. 500 bits from DJ, thank you, says, I could desperately use Starlink right now to upload the Space Podcast to Nick. I'm sitting at about 1.5 megabits up, and it's painful if I have to upload here. I agree, DJ. I want as many people to have access to Starlink as possible. I do think it would make a massive difference, especially for you and Nick. Especially for, there's so many people like you, DJ. Mike's another one. Louise is using Comcast right now, so she's having a busy day at work currently. So first of all, I didn't really set up Starlink until after work yesterday, so she was already off the clock. And then we were watching some TV last night with Starlink. I connected our smart TV. Oh, here comes some lag. I'm going to wait a second. I'm going to wait for it to correct itself. 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, no, there it goes. It's coming back. It's temporary. Give it a second. You just got to get a little patient with it. It was just looking for a satellite. Low latency toggle. I wonder if that's a thing. Automatically reconnect. Okay. Rip stream. Says we're green now. See, I can tell in the chat. People saying audio is fine. That would actually make a difference to me now that we've got a few people watching this. Can you hear me through the lag? Seems to be solid now. Let's see. It's sad Google Fiber is not available in more places because I've seen their customers get gigabit down and up. Oh, yeah. Fiber is very rare, unfortunately. There's very little fiber across the country, which is why so much of the internet still has very sucky internet. No, it's back. Would you buy the iMac in pink? No. And honestly, like, I know there was that rumor going around, but I don't honestly believe it. Just because it doesn't really sound like something Apple would care about. Oh, people are saying, yes, we hear you through the lag. Well, that's good. That actually makes me feel better because, I mean, the visual here is honestly kind of redundant. I mean, yes, my face is beautiful, and I'm sure you all love staring at me every day, but at the end of the day, as long as you can hear me, I feel like eventually we could power through some of the laggy moments. Louise is staying safe with Comcast currently while you're beta testing. She has agreed that she wants to try Starlink, but today, here's the thing. I'm kind of split on how it'll work. So what I've noticed where Starlink has been doing okay is when it's not internet that requires a very solid, consistent, stable connection. So, for instance, we've seen Starlink drop signal several times in this live stream. In the past 20 minutes, we've seen 3 or 4 times. But on Discord, I never noticed that because it's not Discord doesn't require a very stable, steady, always on connection because it's just kind of send message, read message. It's very quick. It's like, all right, the message has been sent. There it is. And then no internet is used until you hit send. Then a little bit of internet is used. And that's what my wife does primarily with customer service on her computer. So she got a PC now because her Chromebook kept sucking so hard. People are like, why do people buy iPads? Chromebooks are much cheaper. Meanwhile, her Chromebook could not stay connected to the Wi-Fi. Not Starlink, okay? I'm talking about Comcast. It kept disconnecting her, and she was like, honey, my internet keeps getting disconnected. What's wrong with the Wi-Fi? I'm like, honey, I was live streaming this whole time, and there's 0 drop frames. So her Chromebook was sucking. She had to take it back to work, and they gave her a Windows 10 PC, which I guess she doesn't love it. It makes a lot of noise. I've noticed that about Windows. They love doing it loves these little alert sounds. We got to turn those off. But yeah, Chris Norton, thank you for the 100 bits. Appreciate that. That was very nice. You didn't say anything, but thank you. Right now, is a very busy day for her. She's getting a lot of traffic with customer service, and she said that she doesn't want to waste any time. Like if Starlink cuts out and she can't do her job, she doesn't want to have to mess around with Wi-Fi settings. So she decided that ooh, it's going red again. Come back, come back, come back. There you go. It's back now. Um, Louise decided that one of these days, I think maybe Tuesday, maybe tomorrow, she's gonna try to see if she can do her job off of Starlink. And these brief cutouts, they're very quick, but they do happen, and obviously you do notice them. Um, that's what makes me worried. That's what makes me worried about what's it called? Switching off of Starlink, because she needs to be able to work. So if she can't work off of Starlink, that's basically a no-go. I mean, there's things I'm willing to put up with, and let me also be clear, because I see what's his name? Mark is concerned for me on Twitter. He's saying like, this is so stupid that you would uh use Starlink. It's a downgrade in every way, and you should just keep Comcast because that's more reliable, and you need to prioritize Comcast. It would be different if this is how it was always going to be, but that's not the case. It is progressively getting better. The speeds are getting faster. The amount of satellites going up is getting higher, which is why I'm more forgiving of these speeds, is because I know it will improve. It will get better. This is not how it's always going to be. Whereas if I stick with Comcast, I know that's always going to be the same. I can spend $145 a month on Comcast, and the speeds I'm getting today are going to be the same speeds I'm getting a year from now, probably the same speeds 5 years from now, because I live in kind of a rural area. So I'm not going to be in a location. I'm kind of lucky that I have Comcast available, because there's a lot of people in my local area that do not have access to Comcast. I'm kind of on the end of the line that Xfinity supports, basically, is what I'm trying to say. There's a large number. Come on, come back up. You can do it. Find that satellite dish. We should just cut to footage of the Starlink satellite whenever I notice a frame drop. Just cut to footage, and it's like, I'm still looking. But for one, Starlink on a monthly basis is going to be cheaper, and I know that the speeds will improve, and the speeds, again, are really not my main concern. I can upload videos with this. I can technically live stream with this. Obviously, it's a little clunky right now, but my guess is that, given SpaceX is still branding this as a beta right now, but they plan on rolling it out to everyone, including like not calling it a beta this summer, is when they want to do an official launch and officially decide that it's not in beta anymore. That's what makes me think we're only really a quarter or two away from these intermittent cutouts from happening. If the speed stayed exactly the same, but there weren't dropouts, I would be fine with it. Like my wife could work off of it if there weren't the little cutout things. How's this different from 5G talk? Because 5G is trying to solve the exact opposite problem. 5G is about bringing a few people fast internet, where Starlink is about giving everybody decent internet. It's not the fastest internet in the world, but the idea is the coverage would be the world, which is I think a massive milestone if achieved, which it sounds like they're going to achieve it. They're well on their way. They've been hitting pretty much every milestone they've been shooting for, which is why I'm excited for it. The timelines they've rolled out of like the beta being end of 2020 and more people being added to the beta over time, and they're sending tons of Starlink satellites up every month. Usually there's like 2 launches a month, sometimes 3. So once Starship is not in full screen and not in 1080p. I have to stream on internet. Oh, okay, it came back. Alpha says, I say you have no room to complain about speeds. I have to stream on internet that can't even hit a single megabit. I don't have that problem anymore, but I relate to you heavily, Alpha, because that's what I grew up with. The first 19 years of my life, the internet was barely hitting 1 1 megabit per second. Literally, I'm not exaggerating there. And the upload was abysmal. Like the early videos of Taylosive that just went live on Taylosive TV and stuff, the Throwback Thursday stuff, those took all night to upload. I still have very vivid memory growing up of the times when I'm just trying to wait for it to get stable. I want to see that OBS light stay green. It's very picky right now. It's going like green, yellow, red, red, green, red, orange, green. It's like pick a satellite, dishy McFlatface. But yeah, when I was growing up, I would film like 480p videos, and I would have to set them to upload when I would go to bed, and they would be uploading like all night for like literally like 8 to 10 hours. I would wake up the next morning and the upload still wasn't done yet because it was taking that long for it to actually figure out like, oh man, we got to keep pushing, and the speeds. But sometimes the internet would just shut straight off and we'd have to reset the router. And StarLink would have been a godsend because our download sucked. Our upload was almost non-existent. So the fact that anybody would be able to tap into this is a massive game changer to me. And that's why I find StarLink way more exciting, way more interesting than 5G, because 5G, the ultra wideband version, is almost nowhere. I did a YouTube poll to see how many people have actually used 5G ultra wideband. It was like less than 3% of like 20,000 people that have actually utilized ultra wideband. The mid-band version of the low band 5G, which is really just rebranded 4G, honestly, those speeds are not different from what you could get with LTE for the past 7 years. It's just a different wavelength, but they call it 5G. In reality, the speeds aren't that different. But the coverage isn't that different either. I haven't been noticing 5G being super present in places where 4G wasn't present. I've only noticed 5G being there when 4G was already there. So that's why I don't care that much about 5G. Also, the amount of money they spend on advertising and marketing 5G is insane. Whereas Starlink, they're not spending any money on advertising. They're not really hyping this up at all. All they're really doing is focusing on coverage and providing more people who don't have adequate internet with internet. And it's already, even on the beta program, it's made a huge difference for a bunch of people who had, like you guys are describing, like 5 megabits down or one up, and they were paying $80 a month or $200 a month. That's what a lot of America and a lot of the planet is still stuck with to this day. Let's see. Sounds like nightmares to me. They've built this space dish for everyone to enjoy your lives. I think the internet's a great thing, and it's a shame that there's so many people that are still very disconnected from it, you know? And I think it's important as a society and as a species that we realize, like, before we focus on, you know, making cellular like even more fast, even though it's fast enough for what a smartphone needs. Like if you're just checking Twitter, just checking email, LTE is fine. Now we're just focusing on gigabit on phones, which are going to allow us to download an entire TV show in 50 seconds. Okay, that's great. It kills your battery life, by the way. I drove around. My wife, when she got her new Windows laptop for work, we had to go to the actual business, which is a bit of a drive away from here. And I noticed I turned on the 5G auto thing because I wanted to see if we would pick up some 5G. And I did pick up a little bit on the drive, and the phone got so hot. It was so warm. I was waiting for her in the parking lot. Oh, went down to 0. Come back, please. There it goes. It was very quick. But Apple said 5G just got real. Mike says, excites me for someone that considers moving to the middle of nowhere. I like the comfort. I can take my flat face dish wherever and have good connection. That's what they'll get to. Right now, you can't take it wherever because it's part in the beta program. At least they're saying you can't transfer service yet. So they're saying if you do get selected, you can buy a StarLink dish, as it's called, Dishy McFlatface. You can install it and use it at that location. And I've even seen some people on YouTube take it in different places nearby. It sounds like if you just take it like a mile from your house, you might be okay. It might still work. But if you take it like, 100 miles away from the house, that's when it won't work. But eventually, Elon has already alluded to this on Twitter and in podcasts and stuff. Eventually, once the coverage is more universal and the connections are more stable, yes, you'll be able to get to the point where the location of the Starlink doesn't really matter as long as you have it and then point it up at the sky. Wherever you are on the planet, you'll have a connection. That's what they want to get to. Thank you, Chris, again for the 100 bits. Nolan Reach says 5G is cool and all. I know everyone is hyped about speeds and everything, but what I see is influx of information which individual can barely undertake anymore. So what I think would be cool is to see some improvements with regards to consistency and ease of usability. So my dog could finally order food for itself and walk itself to the park. Yeah, I mainly agree, except with the 5G is cool part. I don't really think it's that cool either. I think that honestly, all the money spent and dumped into 5G connectivity and ultra wideband would have been better spent focused on improving coverage of LTE, just bringing more 4G towers to more places so that there's less places with crappy internet and slow speeds, which, let's be honest, when people are complaining about their phone's cellular speed not being very good, it was never the fault of the tower. It was the fault of the coverage. It always came down to I was in a location where there wasn't good cellular. But it wasn't that, oh, I'm right next to the tower, but because of the bandwidth and so many people using that one tower, now it's slow. I don't think that was it. I mean, there might have been a few circumstances of giant events, people at a sporting game. That's like the one use case I could say ultra wideband might make sense, is like a football stadium when there's a bunch of people outside. Just put a 5G tower right in the top of the stands so that everybody has a decent connection, but that's about it. Trying to say like we're going to bring that everywhere is just kind of silly to me. Silverboy 3131, thank you for the Twitch Prime, appreciate that. Convince his wife to let me buy a canoe and strap Starlink tripod on roof. Yeah, at this point, just messing around with it, I put the dish out on my lawn at first and then realized, I don't want this sitting out front where there's a lot of cats around my neighborhood. I don't want cats playing with it, or I don't want someone to see it and decide to steal it. I don't think they could, though, because the cable that comes off of Dishy is fixed. I don't think it can come off. It's not removable. But Chris says, I can't see any problem. Well, that's good. You're donating a lot, which might be a financial problem. What do you guys think? I mean, we're 36 minutes into this. I know it's been a little laggy, but my I guess main question that I've been asking myself internally is, knowing that Starlink will improve in time, knowing that the speeds will get better and the consistency of the connection will get better, is this unwatchable? Like, to those of you who watch most of the Twitch streams, I'm going to ask you a question now. Do you think this is unbearable? Is the lag so bad we should never do this again? Should this be the only Starlink stream, or should we just kind of live with the lag? Is the lag tolerable? I wouldn't be asking this if I thought it was going to stay this way forever, for the record. If it was like it's going to be laggy for the next 5 years, I wouldn't be asking. But if it's laggy for the next like 3 months, I don't know. Maybe I'm willing to put up with that. Oh, DMC Peak 420. Thank you for the Twitch Prime. Quite a username. My 5G is just my already good LTE, just simply boosted by 30%. Yeah, that's not really how they market it, is it? People are saying it's not too bad. See how it goes. It's good so far. Avnub says it's not bad. I expected worse. Mike says, I think adding an animation would make it more comical / livable. Otherwise, not bad. What kind of animation? I thought about that. I thought about having a little cutaway scene I could cut to that says, apologize for lag. Starlinks are looking for a signal. The Wandering Knight says, it's not unwatchable. I think it depends on the content to some extent. Okay. Mustang Gia 157 says, not bad at all, but I don't hear you when it buffers, but doesn't bother me. Yeah, if it was buffering like a severe amount of the time. Right now, OBS keeps track of this, which is kind of cool. We've been streaming for about 38 minutes, and it says I've dropped 5.7% of the frames. Which, on one hand, it's like, ooh, I'm losing 5% of all the frames I'm streaming. On the other hand, it's like, well, we get 95% of the stream. All right. Most of my streams, when done via Comcast, are about, those are usually 0 frames dropped. Normally it's 100% of the stream, which is ideal. That's what we want. But can we live with 95 for a few months? That's the question I'm trying to ask myself right now. I have not made a decision yet, and how my wife's work is impacted by Starlink will obviously be a big influence. But seeing how well Discord has worked and texting has worked for me so far, my prediction, I could be wrong on this, but I'm predicting she'll be able to work off of Starlink. There are the brief cutouts, but they're so brief that I don't think they're going to result in a huge impact because her work is all chat, online chat. Occasionally she takes phone calls. Maybe that could be a problem, but I don't know. It's a very difficult position I'm in right now because the upload speeds are obviously not as fast as Comcast, which does impact, how quickly my videos go up. They take a little bit longer, but it's not a deal breaker in my opinion. The main reason a lot of people are looking at this is like, well, Comcast is better. Just pick Comcast. We are we are budgeting like everything these days, where we just try to be very intentional and very careful with how much money we drop on this. And we don't subscribe to Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those. I'm actively, as an Apple sheep, I'm actively trying to tell people, don't subscribe to Apple One. It's dangerous. Be careful with all these memberships that you get roped in. And Comcast is an extra $145 a month. Not extra. It's an extra $45 on top of that. But that's $45 a month. If we were saving an extra $45 a month, that's Disney Plus money, right? That's you could get Netflix, Disney Plus, and Hulu and Discovery Plus for that kind of money. So that we're talking about a financial savings here. And let's see, $45 a month. That's $540 a year we could be saving if we can live with Starlink. And the speeds being uploading a video that takes a little bit longer is not a huge deal to me. And I do believe, I know at the end of the day, like people have brought up, you could just downgrade your Comcast plan and get worse uploads with that and save money that way. We're thinking about doing that in the meantime, like having a super cheap Comcast plan, get the cheapest Comcast available, and then use Starlink, and then cancel Comcast as soon as Starlink is adequate enough. So it's tough. I still can't make up my mind on it. Your guys' opinion matters a lot to me, though. So if this is unwatchable, I mean, people who find it unwatchable probably turned off the stream and they're not here. So there's probably a bit of a buy. I might do a Twitter poll on that later. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough call. Does cloud coverage make any difference? So far, there's not many clouds out today. I saw a little frame drop there. Sorry, incoming lag. So far, I haven't noticed much of a difference. There was, when I initially set up Starlink, there was a little bit of a overcast. There was some clouds, and the speeds were pretty much the same. So it might have a slight impact, but I don't think it's huge. And it doesn't, I'm sure the rain impacts the connection a little bit, but I don't expect it to be major because first of all, it does not rain where I live very much. We do not get a ton of rain. No, come back. People are screaming again outside. Why are they screaming? I see a cloud coming, lag. Yeah, that's not what I experienced so far. When I first unboxed it, I basically brought it outside and put it on the lawn right away, and there were clouds in the sky. It was very overcast. It looked like it was going to rain. So there was noticeable clouds, and the speeds were about what they are now. It didn't make a huge difference. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. I'm still subscribed to Apple TV Plus. They found a movie I love. I wish I could buy it outright. You could just sub to it like $5 whenever you want to watch it. How often are you really going to watch it, though? Nolan says, Oh my God, that's another thing. Streamers will be afraid of clouds and will be actively monitoring the weather. I binge watched a bunch of Starlink videos, and the interesting thing is, people were getting pretty consistent speeds even with snow. There was like a blizzard, and snow was collecting on the dish, and the dish actually has a heated face. The flat face, the McFlat face is heated, and it will melt the snow off, and it is covered with hydrophobic coating, so rain and stuff will fall right off. It won't puddle on top very much. Um, yeah, I think there's a bit of a misconception to answer your question, Super Jack. I thought it was this way too, but I don't think it is based on looking at the dish quite a bit these days. I thought initially that the Starlink dish would be constantly moving towards wherever the closest satellite was. And whenever there was one that went out of vision, it would adjust again and move and move and move and move. It really doesn't, though. Basically, you mount it wherever you're going to mount it, try to get it in a place without much obstruction. And then once you plug it into power, it only takes like 60 seconds. And then after that 60 seconds, it adjusts, it goes straight up, and then it looks around and points in a specific direction, and then it stays there. It doesn't really move around once it gets fixed on a certain position. Now, I don't know if like once a day or something it recalibrates. Maybe it does it late at night, or, you know, maybe there's a certain point where it maybe there's a certain point where new Starlink satellites come online and it decides, oh, I can move here now. Maybe it does, but it doesn't move like consistently, at least in my experience. From what I've seen, it's very like occasional. It's not even occasional. It's more like it moves around once when you first plug it in, and then it stays there. And it's actually like really close to our bedroom where we mounted it, and I have not heard it. I mean, we were obviously in there all night and part of the morning. I didn't hear it move around once. So yeah, it doesn't move around all the time. 31 Flava says, not unwatchable to me, but if you had not told me beforehand, I'd have figured it was just the internet in general, Twitch being dumb, or my provider cutting out. Yeah, I've seen that too, because my buddy Ross in the Air Force, again, I FaceTimed him this morning for about 90 minutes with Starlink, and he's in a place at his Air Force base where the internet cuts out all the time too. So there were times where he was cutting out and he was saying, that was me. And I was like, oh, really? I thought my Starlink was acting up. And he was like, no, I think that was on my end. So sometimes people just can't tell. Sometimes they just think their internet's the one that's messed up. Avnub says, is it possible to cancel the Starlink subscription but keep the dish in case you want to join back into the service? So this is a great question, which I've yet to find the answer to. In fact, I encourage anyone who knows the answer to this to please reach out to me via Twitter. Just tag me wherever, if you know the specific answer to this, because they do make a point in the support section of the app. They specifically say pausing Starlink service is not an option. You can only cancel it. And then if I'm reading it correctly, at this point, because it's in beta, I don't think this is official. I don't think this is always how it's going to be. But at this point, it sounds like if you cancel it, you can't just resubscribe to it, which is unfortunate because you've spent all the money on the dish and the hardware. So you're going to have the router and you're going to have the dish on your roof and you're going to have all these wires and cables. But if you stop paying for the service, then all of that stuff becomes useless until a later date. Because I agree. I think it would be a very easy decision if it was just a matter of, can I not use the service right now, but then I'll leave everything hooked up. I'll leave the dish on the roof. I'll leave the router and whatever. I'll leave the wires where they are. And then I'll resubscribe later when the connection is more stable. And then I'll start paying for it. Right now, that doesn't appear to be an option. But if I'm reading that wrong or I'm misunderstanding the wording, please let me know, because I'd be much more interested in that. It would open up my options quite a bit if I knew that, hey, if I want to, I can just pause service on Starlink, keep Comcast for a few more months. Because I would hate to walk into a situation where I cancel Starlink and then Starlink gets good this summer or later in the year. to the point that, oh, it is stable and you don't have to worry about the dropouts as much. But then I can't resubscribe because I already canceled it. So because of that, I can't get it back. And now I'm still stuck with Comcast. That would annoy me. I don't want that to happen. So hopefully someone can answer my question about that. But at this point, it sounds like that's not a thing. They don't let you pause it. Koji Ko says your livelihood depends on steady good internet. I don't think it's viable using a beta program to jeopardize your business because you don't know what technical problems could be in line for the next 3 or 4 months that you can't foresee. That is true. There's a very logical argument to be made there. But I mean, obviously the decision hasn't been made yet, but the occasional dropouts don't prevent me from doing my job, to be fair. It's not like StarLink shuts off for extended periods of, it's not like it shuts off for days or weeks. That would be one thing. If Starlink beta for people was like spontaneously shutting off for a week, yeah, that would be a big problem. But so far it's like it shuts off for 5 to 10 seconds and then it comes right back, which is annoying but somewhat tolerable. I think Mike was asking about that earlier. How long are the brief buffering periods when watching TV? So that's the thing. They're fairly brief. Like it happened. We watched a lot of TV last night. I think we watched like 2 to 3 hours worth of TV. And I wrote down whenever it cut out. It happened about 8 times within like a 4-hour block, I would say, which is kind of annoying, but they were all like 5 seconds though. It was always like buffering and then you count to 5 and then it comes back. And I was like, okay, I mean, obviously I don't want it to stay that way forever, but if I just have to put up with that for another 4 to 5 months, I might be willing to put up with it. But you might also fiend canceling to Comcast. When I called Comcast to cancel service after switching to a competitor, they wanted to offer a big discount to try to keep my service. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I will mention that, but if they don't offer me a big discount, then if they don't offer me a big discount, then they will have called my bluff. I would have been like, I'd like to cancel my service. And they're like, okay, I'll cancel it for you. I'm like, wait, no, aren't you going to fight for me? I don't want that to happen. I don't want them to call my bluff. Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier, Avnav. We're looking and considering downgrading Xfinity to the cheapest possible plan. I think it's $40 a month, but don't quote me on that because the plans, this is why I hate Comcast. The plans they list on their website are different from the plans you get if you call in. If you call in and ask further tiers, there will be different from the ones they list on their website. Also, the website does not come back. We're in the red. I'm waiting for it to bounce back. The website makes it very, very hard to downgrade, basically. When we logged on to Xfinity last night, we were like, let's see a few different options. And it was like, you already have the fastest internet available. And I was like, no, I don't care about that. What other tiers do you guys have? And they're like, what other tiers? No. You're happy with this tier. You won't change from this tier, right? That's the only one. So at some point we'll call them and figure out what the base plan is and what the speeds are. Because technically if we downgraded Comcast to something around $40 a month, then we would be spending $140 a month on internet total, which before Starlink, we were already spending $145 a month. So the price doesn't change very much. I'm not too worried about short-term expenses though. I guess it doesn't bother me too much to have a few higher months of expenses, but I'm more trying to find the long-term solution. And I think Starlink is the future. And I think as time goes on, it will get more stable and there will be less dropouts. I'm just worried about canceling the service and then not being able to sign up again because you already hit cancel. So we can't pause service. We have to, keep you on the blacklist because you canceled it. I don't want that to be the case. And also, to be completely honest with you, I do have this mentality of voting with your wallet type thing. You know, part of the reason, if you guys recall, part of the reason I went with the iPhone 12 mini over the 12 Pro Max, which I really like the 12 Pro Max. I didn't really have that many complaints with the phone. It was great as a solid phone, but it was missing something that I really wanted, which was 120 hertz, and it was still only 60 hertz for $1,100. So I decided, yeah, there it goes again. Come back, come back, come back. There it goes. It's amazing. I've never seen internet be so fickle like that. It went from 0 to 5,000 kilobits per second in one move. It was just like zoop, zoop, jump back up again. But the reason I went with the 12 mini was because I was like, I want Apple to do more of this. It's such a great deal, and I love the design and I love the features it has. So I'm going to vote with my wallet and encourage Apple with my purchase and say, hey, I like what you're doing here. I'm proud that you made this, and I want you to keep making more stuff like this. So that's why I went with the 12 mini. And I feel very similarly with internet providers. Since the beginning, ever since I've been a customer of Comcast, I've hated how complicated it is to set up internet, how complicated their customer service is, how complicated their bundles and deals are when they get all intricate with their, no, you got to bundle it with your TV plan. And actually to activate your service with Comcast, you have to set up the cable TV box for it to work. We can't just activate your internet. You have to also set up a cable TV box. I don't want a cable TV box. Well, but you have to get one in order to get a cheaper deal. Can I just get internet, please? Well, that'll cost you more. All that kind of stuff. I know it's kind of a setup annoyance. Like you kind of deal with it once and then you're done with it. But I don't want to drop all this money every month for the rest of my life on an ISP that has no incentive, that has no motivation to improve internet. And also they're basically going to take all my money, $145 a month for years. They're going to take all that money and try to find ways of making cable TV packages. They're just going to spend it on ads, and they're just going to mail me more ads in the mail like they already do. Whereas SpaceX, I love that company. It's probably one of like top 3 favorite companies in the world. I'd say it's up there with Tesla and Apple, and just I love what SpaceX is doing. I love that they want to make life multiplanetary, and they're focused so heavily and they're so diligent with their Starship testing, and they want to make space travel something that everybody can do, and they want to encourage rocket reusability, and I want to support that. You know, I want to endorse that. And I know I'm going to be spending easily $100 a month on Wi-Fi for probably the rest of my life anyway. So I would much rather that money go towards a brand and a company that I love and I appreciate, instead of a company I despise and hate with a passion. So I guess that's why I'm a bit tolerant of crappy performance or the speeds not being as amazing, because to me, it's not all about just the end performance. I literally want to cancel Xfinity to kind of send a message to them, just of like, you don't have control over me anymore. You can't just keep treating me like garbage because you know you have a monopoly, and I don't want to support monopolies. I don't want to endorse a company that has no, no interest in providing help to the consumer. So I would love it so much to cancel Comcast. And I guess it's just an internal debate on my own end. Like, how much am I willing to put up with to cancel Comcast? Because I despise what they are as a company so much. Avnub said he had the same issue with AT&T bundles with ISPs. You are tolerating the crappy performance of iPhone 12 mini sales. Well, that doesn't really affect me. How well the iPhone 12 mini sells doesn't really result in anything. I have similar issues with Spectrum. Spent hours on the phone trying to transfer service while moving. Ugh, I hear you. That's gotta suck. I'm right there with you. Also, like, to set up Xfinity, someone has to show up to your house. You have to schedule a meetup. Some guy had to come in my house and come in this room to set up my internet. There was no like do it yourself option. And I hate that. The fact that the frustrating thing about Starlink is I love everything about it outside of the performance. The performance is when it gets more complicated, which of course will get better, but the setup was so fun. Like legit. I had so much fun unboxing it and taking it out and watching it like in the yard. I was literally like propping up my iPhone for that shot. I was like, I want to put this near the dish and I'm going to plug it in to give it power, and it lights up and points at the sky. And I was like, ooh, that's cool. And to hear the little noise it makes is like, and then you can hear it connecting. It's like, it's making little, they're very slight, but it does, the Dishy McFlatface does actually make a little bit of noise, which was awesome. And it's very futuristic looking. And I was like, okay, we can route the wire in here, and the router looks really cool, and we're doing speed tests. Some are getting really fast, and I was like, oh wow, and you can take this anywhere with you. It was just, I don't know. I loved every part about it. The app is amazing. I love all the stats they give you. I don't know if I don't think I showed that in the video, but the app instantly just displays all the devices that are connected, which I thought was really cool. It tells you if you have a good connection. See, here it is. It's like, it tells you, it's like your iPad is connected, your iPhone is connected, your Apple Watch, here's your smart TV. So you know every device that's on the network, which is dope. And then they have a statistics page that gives you, here's the amount of time that you've resulted in no satellites being detected. It's only 2 minutes in the last 8 hours, which is pretty good. Your ping success, here's how much upload you're using, here's how much download you're using. And it gives you all this in real time data, which is really cool to check on. And the setup process was so simple. You just connected to the Wi-Fi network as soon as you plugged it in. Also, the dish and the router being powered by the same port. As a guy who's a fan of like minimal setups, and the reason I'm a big fan of like all-in-one computers like the iMac is because the monitor and the computer don't need separate power outlets. Like, I guess that matters to me a lot because in this room there's only 2 power outlets. So if I can save a power cable, I'm like, yes, thank you. So Starlink, the dish and the router, everything is just one 110 outlet. That's it. You just plug it in and you connect with your phone, and boom. It's just like, what do you want the password to be? What do you want the network to be? Done. Okay, here you are. I just loved how simple it was to set up. And I love everything about it except the little dropouts. That's the one thing preventing this from being a complete home run for me. If there weren't any dropouts in the connection, even if the speeds were the same as what I'm getting right now, I could live with this. Like, full warning now, I could tell I could live with these speeds if it didn't drop out. They save space, yeah. I wonder if a sticker would cause any issues if you stuck it to the dish face. Probably not, but I'd add a portal turret eye. That would be interesting. I'm curious. I bet it would, considering, trees and leaves can interfere with the signal. So I bet it would. But let's see. I wonder if a stick. Yeah, sorry, I just answered that. I totally canceled Comcast, but then we were lucky to have competing cable internet service called Wide Open West, and to hear the Comcast retentions rep really try to work me over was the best. Each time it was like, can you offer more than 175 megabits per second service? Then if you buy our triple play, nope, sorry, cancel my service. But what if we give you 50% off? I hope they do that when I try to cancel. That would be nice. Should probably get on the phone with someone today, talk about cheaper option. That might open up some potential. I don't know. If we can get the price down on Comcast and just have it as a backup for just those occasional times where Starlink acts up a bit, that would be nice, because I want to keep Starlink. I want to keep it so bad. I know. I'm a fanboy. I'm a big SpaceX sheep. I said it in the video because I meant it. But I want to support this company. I do not want to support Comcast. It's just a matter of what am I willing to put up with. So, but hey, I mean, can cloud/rain affect it? It can, but not like, from what I've seen, it doesn't shut it off. I watched a few speed tests people did in snowstorms where there was literally snow and ice on the Starlink dish itself, and they were getting not as fast as it was when it was clear, but around 80% the speeds. It wasn't like a tenth of the speed. It wasn't anything drastic. Um, but that's not a huge concern to me because I live in a very, very sunny area. It does not rain a lot where I live. It never snows. Um, I think you should definitely support and see what happens. I'm curious if I ran a Twitter poll, what people would say. But I still think it's safe to say, I mean, if this is as bad as it's going to get and it's only going to improve from here on out, I'm really tempted. I'm really, really tempted. I'm really tempted to keep it. But yeah, these dropouts. There's another one right now. Comes right back. It's amazing how fast it is. Let's see. SpaceX with Starlink is kind of like Apple in the Mac back in the 1980s. If Apple launched a similar service, would you go for it? I mean, it doesn't really matter who is offering it exactly, but I guess, yeah. I mean, it would probably support Apple Pay. I would get 3% cash back. If the connection was stable, yeah, yeah, why not? I mean, if it was Apple versus SpaceX, maybe I would have a harder. I mean, what's Apple going to do with that money, though? If Apple's just going to use that money to create more services and make Apple Arcade Plus or whatever, then I would probably stick with Starlink just because I want SpaceX to have more money so that it can get to Mars and advance Starship development. So I guess I support that goal a lot more than whatever goal Apple's striving for. I like Apple's products. I don't really like their mission statement as much. I'm a big fan of Tesla and SpaceX's mission statements. Apple doesn't really have that. I don't really know what their mission statement is. It's kind of just like make the best products by any means necessary, by any price necessary, which is like, okay, well, I do agree that a lot of the products they make are the best in class, some of them to a fault, like AirPods Max. They really went all out with those, but just way too expensive. And the Pro Display XDR, I'm sure it looks great, but it's just overkill for the market they're in. So yeah, I would rather support SpaceX's mission statement over Apple's, but Apple versus SpaceX would be like fighting parental figures. Please stop fighting. I love you both. Guys, just be friends. I don't know why Apple would have their own internet service, though. They would have to develop their own rockets. That'd be really interesting to see Apple do. I guess they could. They've got all the money in the world. That's all SpaceX is doing. They're just spending money. But have a definite time limit. If it keeps lagging, then it's time to let it go. Yeah, it would probably be safe to have like a what's it called? A give up point. I'm trying to think of a time, like maybe by the end of the year, if they're still unreliable and it's still not. I mean, that's something else to keep in mind, right? Like the reason I'm more interested in hanging on to Starlink, even though the speeds aren't great, is partially because Comcast ain't going anywhere, guys. Look, Comcast has a monopoly where I live. I could cancel Comcast and resubscribe the next day. And you know what? I bet Comcast would be very happy to have me back. So it's not like if I cancel Comcast, I have to stick with Starlink and there's no other alternative. If Starlink ends up sucking or not getting better, I think it will. But for instance, if it doesn't, it's not like Comcast won't be there. So that's just something to keep in mind. Whereas Starlink might not be the same. I mean, with the beta program right now and the fact that they're going to be somewhat limited with how many dishes they roll out to everyone, they might not let me back if I cancel, which would suck. So it's tough. I mean, I want to see how my wife's job works with it. Maybe come to some new conclusions based off that. Maybe see if we can notice any change in performance within the first few weeks. If we, more satellites should be coming online in the next. I looked it up actually. I know I've been saying that there should be more. There's another Starlink launch in the next 2 days, but I read that it apparently takes around 4 months for Starlink satellites to actually turn on. But there have been a lot more Starlink launches in the past 4 months, which means that we could get some satellites that aren't active now activate next week. It's possible, and it could get a lot better. More risky factor for All Mankind Season 2 reminded me of this. Large solar flares knocking out satellites, but ground tech being mainly unaffected, though like you said, there's always the options of rolling back. Yeah, I mean, solar flares are a thing. Solar flares could knock out everything, potentially. But yeah, it's a bit risky. I mean, there's all kinds of variables like that. To be fair, though, Comcast, while it was definitely more reliable than Starlink is right now, it wasn't perfect. We ran into laggy streams with Comcast on occasion. Definitely not as consistently as Starlink is lagging, but you know, there were several streams where Comcast was acting up. It happened. So it's not like they're perfect either. There's some certain amount of risk. Do you not know that we currently have hundreds of thousands of satellites that are being affected by solar flares now and then still functional and turn them down before the flare comes? Yeah. I like how he started that with "excuse me." But anyway, here's the number to remember, guys. Keep track in case I don't. We've been live for 1 hour and 9 minutes with Starlink. Seems like quite a few of you stuck around, decided it wasn't unwatchable. We dropped 6.1% of frames within a 1 hour and 9 minute live stream. Not terrible, not great. I would like it to be more like 0% frames drop. That would be nice. But we're going to wrap it up here. It's reached the end of the day. But yeah, last 3 videos I've posted on tech and EV have all been uploaded to Starlink, which is cool. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for participating with this test. And hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care, all. Bye-bye.